Today, I'd like you to take a look at this video that I made 5 years ago. This is a screenshot of that video, and you'll understand the full context soon enough, and I pray that you'll take a look at it in its entirety. You'll see that video in just a moment. But first, some context. I'm sure that many of you have seen the political and racial tension that has surrounded the death of Charlie Kirk. I know I have. And I want to do my part, no matter how large or small, to help heal some of those wounds, especially in our church. This will be the first video in a series of videos discussing the issue of race and politics in the church, specifically in the Seventh-day Adventist church. I'm going to tell you what my intentions are up front. I have two goals. The first goal is to try to convince as many minorities as possible that unfortunately, because we live in a sinful world, there are things that we will have to deal with and carry things that others will simply not be able to understand. Like how I carry the things in this picture that you will see again in just a moment. And I've had to learn how to navigate all of that. My other goal is to try to get as many non-minorities as possible to understand that there are things that minorities carry that you will never have to carry. And perhaps what you're about to see will help you understand some of the anger or frustration that you're seeing out there. Once again, we have another polarizing issue that has opened old wounds. When Charlie Kirk died, I made a video mourning his death, and I felt that it was important to do that because that's what I would want if the proverbial shoe was on the other foot. I said in that video that there were many things that I agreed with him on, and I also said that there were other things that I disagreed with him on. But in my mind, none of that added to the value of his life or devalued his life. Some of the things that I disagreed with were statements related to race that we'll get into in the next video. For now, I just want to begin this conversation with you by taking a look at this video that I made 5 years ago during the height of the George Floyd protests. You can tell the video is 5 years old because back then I had a little bit more pepper than salt. It was a video that I took down for reasons that I will address in a future video. My intention is not to race bait. My intention is not to stoke anger. So if you watch this in its entirety, please do not use this video to accuse me of that or use this video to create more tension. I have no interest in any of that. I simply want you to watch this video so that you can see the burden that I and many people just like me carry every day and how it can shape our perspective. I'm not asking for pity. I'm not asking for anyone to feel sorry for me or my family. I'm simply asking you to listen to your brother in Christ. And by God's grace, after you watch this video, I hope to see you back here in the next episode in this series so that we can continue this conversation in a Christ-like manner. God bless. Hi, my name is Fitz Anderson, and this is my burden. Take a look. It's ugly, but I need you to see this, and hopefully you'll feel this too. There is so much fighting going on about the problem of racism and whether or not it's still a big deal. A major reason for this is that at the end of the day, two people can be living in the same society and yet live in two completely different worlds. Well, I want you to see my world, and I hope that it will help you to understand what goes on in the mind of someone like me. Everything you see here is a weight I carry with me every single day. Each piece of paper represents something that has happened to me or someone I love. There are 12 stories here, and each one has left a scar in my mind that shapes the way I think and the way that I view the world. I'm going to tell you these stories today, and I hope that when you hear these stories, it will help you to understand the burden that I and so many just like me are tired of carrying. It was my senior year of college. I was 19 years old, and I was working the night shift at KB Toys. It was Christmas season, and every day, after people had bought all the Furbies and Tickle Me Elmos, I worked with 3 of my friends to restock the shelves each night. One of my friends was the assistant manager, and this night, we closed up and left around midnight. I was driving that night, and as soon as I made a right turn out of the parking lot onto the road, the lights came on. Here we go again. Why was I being pulled over this time? And then I heard it. Get out of the car and put your hands on the hood. That night, I was wearing this jacket. And as I was getting out of the car, this string right here hooked in my seat reclining lever and pulled me down. By reflex, I reached down to unhook the string, and as I looked back, I saw the police officer put his hand to his gun and shout, "Get your hands away from the car." I don't know how I was able to do it, but somehow I quickly got the string unhooked and I immediately put my hands in the air. I walked to the front of the car and joined my 3 friends who already had their hands on the hood. I can vividly remember the anger I felt as the officers patted us down like criminals. I can still see the headlights of the cars driving past, and I imagined the people in those cars shaking their heads and saying, "Looks like they got another one. I wonder what they did." Well, the fact of the matter is that we had done nothing wrong. They had searched the car and they didn't find any drugs because we didn't do or sell drugs. They didn't find any illegal firearms or any stolen Tickle Me Elmos from the KB toy store. We were just 4 young men in college trying to work and do the right thing. Well, since they didn't find anything, they let us go and told me that they pulled me over because, get this, my license plate light, not my tail light, but my license plate light was out. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a license plate light before that night. I wanted so badly to tell that police officer what we both knew. That was garbage. You know why you pulled us over. I don't know many people who get patted down and have their car searched because their license plate light is out. But I didn't want any trouble, so I swallowed my pride, got back in the car, and drove us home. Now, here's the thing. What if he had shot me when I reached down? I was only trying to comply with his request, like the guy who tried to reach for his license when instructed by a policeman to do so and got shot.
Can I see your license, please? Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
I just got my license. You can't get my license. I grabbed my license right there. That's my license right there.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
If that police officer had shot me, the next morning, people who read the story would have played Monday morning quarterback and said, "Why was he reaching into his car?" Well, I wasn't thinking straight because I was afraid. And I was just trying to do what he asked me to do so that I could stay out of trouble. And honestly, maybe he was afraid too. But you know what? Neither of us should have been in that position because I should not have been pulled over in the first place. Or even if he did pull us over, he should have come to the car, asked us what we were doing, and I would have showed him the KB Toys logo on my shirt, and we could have all been on our way. Fast forward 15 years or so. I've finished college. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and another one in theology. I have a master's degree in telecommunications, and I'm a Cisco certified network engineer. I'm a married man now with a young child. I follow all the rules. I'm in church every Saturday. I preach and I teach Sabbath school. I traded in my baggy clothes for slacks and collared shirts. Certainly I won't be followed anymore. Not so much. Not so much. It was Easter Sunday at about 6:30 in the morning. I was invited to have sunrise worship at a lake with 2 of my friends from church. One white, one black. As I was driving through this town to get to the lake, a cop starts to follow me. I made sure to drive 35 miles per hour. No rolling stops at the stop signs today. I didn't want any trouble. If I made a left, he made a left. If I made a right, he made a right. My anxiety was building. When am I going to get to this lake so he can see my white friend, so he can know I'm not a threat? This is what I'm thinking. Well, I got to the stop sign where I was supposed to make the final turn to get to the lake, and lo and behold, the road is closed. Unbelievable. So, what do I do now? If I turn around to find another way, the cop is going to think I'm up to something. If I make the left, I'll get into trouble. And I can see my friends right there. My mind was not clear because, once again, I'm afraid. Under the circumstances, I didn't feel like I had any other choice. So I got out of the car. I walked over to the cop's car behind me and I motioned that I had a question. We both knew why he was following me, but neither of us acknowledged it. I simply let him know that I was coming to have Easter worship with my friends, and I asked if I could make the turn. He said yes, and we both went our ways. I told my friends what happened, and we talked about it for a little bit, but I can remember not really wanting to do the Easter thing anymore. I wanted to vent, but I also remember not wanting to burden my white friend with my burden. So we talked about Easter stuff. And then, wouldn't you know it, a couple of minutes later, another cop car comes and parks about 75 yards away and just sits there and watches us. None of us really said anything about the second cop car, but it was awkward for me to say the least. So we just talked a little more, we prayed, and then we left. Why was I followed? Again. And by the way, at that point, it was a yearly tradition to get followed or pulled over at least once a year. But it wasn't midnight this time. It was 6:30 a.m. It wasn't a car full of guys. It was just me in my collared shirt. And come on, it was Easter Sunday. But what if that officer saw me as a threat and reacted like the one that shot Philando Castillo in front of his girlfriend and child for trying to show his gun license?
She says Castile told the officer he was carrying a licensed gun.
He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm.
The police officer pointing his gun into the car. Reynolds calm and clear. Her young daughter in the back seat.
Waiting for him back. I will, sir. No worries. I will.
Told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
When that happened, I felt it to my core. Because in my world, I know that when I'm dealing with the police, there's a good chance that my margin for error is very, very small. If the Easter cop reacted to my getting out of that car as a threat and shot me, the Monday morning quarterbacks would have said, "Why did he get out of the car?" That was stupid, but I wasn't stupid, just scared and trying to do the right thing. Next up, my wife. She was pretty successful at the time. She had a bachelor's degree in business administration, and she also had her MBA. She was the human resources director for a pretty good company. While working there, she highlighted the need for diversity in upper management. And then one day, after an African American man was asked to chair a committee, someone at the company found this. It was a hate letter that referred to all of the African American staff as the N-word, and specifically referred to my wife as the N-word in human resources. I want to read some of this letter to you. It says that the African American man that was chosen to head the committee was just as dumb as the 10 N-words working at the company. It says that they would be getting rid of them, meaning the African Americans. And it goes on to say that the chairman's first task should be to, quote, get that N-word out of human resources so white people can remain in positions of power the way it used to be. And by the way, if you think I'm making this up, take a look.
Staff members never expected to find this, a racially charged letter left on the floor of their state headquarters. The letter, signed by the whistleblower and filled with hate, the letter uses the N-word several times, saying, quote, you may be just as dumb as the 10 N-words working, end quote. The letter goes on to say the organization should get rid of all the African Americans working there. So, quote, white people can remain in positions of power the way it used to be.
But those months after this letter was found, while she still worked there, I can't even explain the pain and fear she went through, especially since work shootings were on the rise at the time. It was very possible and probable that this whistleblower still worked there. And with that hatred, who knows what someone could do? As a man, as a husband, I had to watch her go to work every day, helpless to do anything. Her burden, my burden. I'm going to quickly tell you the rest of these stories. Don't worry, it should only take a few minutes. When my wife and I moved into our first home and made one of our first trips to the local Walmart, we saw a swastika painted on the ground in the parking lot. At this same home, there was a bridge underpass about 100 yards from our house that we used to pass under when we went for walks. And one day, we saw F-N words spray painted on the wall of that underpass. When my son was about 1 year old, my wife and I took him to a local park to go for a walk and to feed the ducks. And as we were leaving, we saw a black Jeep drive by with the words, N-words go home, written on the window. Shortly before my wife and I got married, one time my mother-in-law came home from grocery shopping to see the words dumb N-word written on her door. Imagine how a daughter feels for that to happen to her mother. On another occasion, as my mother was getting out of her car to walk to the supermarket, a car drove by and someone shouted, "Hey, N-word." Another time, when my wife and I were renting a condo, we were woken up at 1 in the morning by a knock at the door. It was a police officer that questioned us because there was a disturbance in the area and someone had called the cops and told them it was us. I can assure you, we had a 2-year-old at the time and had been fast asleep since 9 o'clock. The cop left when he realized that he had clearly woken us up and we had no clue what was going on. But wow, which one of our neighbors called the cops on us? I grew up in Queens, New York, and my wife grew up in a city as well. We decided that we wanted to experience living in a more rural area. You know, a little taste of country living. Well, shortly after we moved into our second home, we woke up the morning after Halloween to find a stop sign with the pole attached laying on our lawn. Now, maybe it was a random prank, but with everything I've experienced up to this point, well, you know why I think our lawn was chosen. It's very hard not to think like that. A few months later, after the stop sign thing, one evening my wife comes home from grocery shopping, and a couple of minutes later, a policeman knocks on my deck door while we're putting away the groceries. He said that they got a call to come to our address because someone reported that a car that drove into our driveway had been driving erratically. Now, granted, my wife can drive erratically sometimes, but nothing worthy of calling the cops. So, in my opinion, one of two things happened. Either someone had taken it upon themselves to follow my wife to our home and report her, or the cop followed her and was just making stuff up. Needless to say, when the cop realized we lived there and had no idea what he was talking about, he said goodnight and left. And finally, and maybe most painful for me, my son, my wonderful, sweet son, who is now 8 years old, when he was 5, came home devastated because a child at the park had teased him by calling him Brownie. And at 5 years old, I had to have the conversation with him that all black people must have with their children, that the world can be a very ugly place, and that people will single you out because you have more melanin in your skin than them. But wait, it didn't stop there. Last year, at a church, that's right, I said at a church camp meeting, another child kept calling him Blackie. Thank God my son is very resilient, but I still have to remind him that despite what some people think, there is nothing wrong with his skin, and that his skin is just like mine and his mother's. And I think it looks pretty good. But the fact of the matter is that now he has started to carry the burden as well, and he started to carry it at 5 years old. So that's my burden, and it's the burden that so many just like me carry every single day. Some have experienced more, some have experienced less. And you know, sometimes you just get tired. There's nothing I have made up. All of this has happened to me or someone that I love. That's why I get so frustrated when I read the comments sections online with people who have never experienced anything like this say things like, just follow the rules and everything will be okay. Racism doesn't exist anymore. Those were the old days. And yes, things have gotten better in certain areas, but based on what we've seen recently and what you see surrounding me right now, I think I can confidently say there's definitely room for improvement. I hope this helps you understand a little bit better why people are crying out. And by the way, no, I'm not condoning looting or violence. And I'm going to talk about that in a later video because it pains me when I see that as well. Which is why I teach my son, there are good white people and there are bad white people. There are good black people and there are bad black people. There are good cops and there are bad cops. Asian, Hispanic, whatever. Basically, there are good people and there are bad people. That's why I have not, do not, and will not make blanket judgments on any people group. And I hope you don't either. Laws have been removed and new laws added. More changes are being made right now as I speak. But authentic change to the system that people are protesting for can only come from hearts being changed. It's the hearts of the people that write the laws. It's the hearts of the people that enforce the laws. It's the hearts of the people that obey the laws. And I hope that some hearts can be changed through hearing my stories. My name is Fitz Anderson. I'm just a regular guy with a burden. Hope to see you again soon.